Last time we spoke about the beginning of the First Battle of Changsha. From Chongqing, Chiang Kai-shek debated defensive strategies for Hunan, ultimately adopting Plan B after Shuer's pleas, focusing on successive resistance north of Changsha to thwart Japanese advances. Japanese forces under Okamura Yasuji launched assaults into Jiangxi and Hunan. In Jiangxi, the 106th and 101st Divisions attacked Huibu and Guanan, where Chinese troops under Lou Zhaoying and Song Kentang fiercely resisted. Yaoan fell briefly but was recaptured by the 32nd Army and the elite 74th Army, with heavy casualties on both sides. In Hunan, Japanese units crossed the Xinjiang River and landed at Yingtian, facing brutal opposition. At Bijia Mountains, Jianyuji's 95th Division held out for 5 days. Battalion commander Xu Anhui's reinforced unit perished entirely, their fragmented remains mourned by the locals. Along the Milo River, Chen Pei's 37th Army fortified their positions, repelling waves upon waves of Japanese attacks, including some suicide squads disguised as civilians. This episode is the First Battle of Changsha. Hello again and welcome back to the Fall and Rise of China podcast. I'm your dutiful host, Craig Watson. But before we begin, I want to remind you all, this podcast is only made possible through the efforts of Kings and Generals over at YouTube. Perhaps you want to learn a bit more about the history of Asia? Kings and Generals has an assortment of episodes on the history of Asia and so much more, so go give them a look over at YouTube. So please subscribe to Kings and Generals over at YouTube and help produce this content by checking out www.patreon.com/kingsandgenerals. Hey, don't forget our sister podcasts over at the Eastern Front and Pacific War Weekbook podcast, both written and narrated by me. If after all that you're still hungry for some more history, why don't you check out my personal channel, the Pacific War channel, found over at YouTube, or my podcast series, Echoes of War, found on major podcast platforms. Over there, we're just finishing up 2 miniseries, one covering the 7 Years' War, the other covering the Taiping Rebellion. And if you're looking to further support me, please consider checking out my YouTube membership or my Patreon account at www.patreon.com/PacificWarChannel. By joining either of these, you get access to the exclusive podcast series, which is about 37 episodes and ongoing. You get early access to all the content I make and voting rights for subjects I will tackle next. Major Lo Wenlang, battalion commander of the 3rd Battalion, 55th Regiment of the 19th Division of the 28th Army, harbored a peculiar quirk. He couldn't sleep soundly without unwrapping his leg bindings, a small ritual that anchored him in the chaos of war. Since the war's eruption, such luxuries were rare, and unwrapping his bindings every night became an impossibility, leaving him to endure restless slumber. Tonight, however, sleep eluded him entirely. He tossed and turned in his makeshift bed, his mind a whirlwind of unrest. 2 days after the northern Hunan battle ignited like a powder keg, the 55th Regiment received urgent orders from the divisional commander, Tang Boyin, to race to Wukao in Pingjiang County. Their path would be through Lu Wenlang's hometown of Fulinpu, a twist of fate that stirred some conflicting emotions within him. Entering the village under the cover of night, the entire battalion encamped in the commander's modest family village, with the battalion headquarters naturally established in his ancestral home. Liu yearned to step across that familiar threshold, but dreaded it, for his parents remained oblivious to the devastating truth. They slaughtered chickens and prepared meat, hosting a battalion staff with drinks and hospitality. After all, this was their son's unit gracing their home. Liu orchestrated door planks and straw for bedding, posted sentries, and evaded his parents until they retired. Before dawn broke, he mustered his troops, ensured that they were all fed, and he led them onwards, slipping away like a shadow. By noon on the 22nd, they reached Wukao, only to receive fresh new directives. Rushed to Yingtian to bolster the 95th Division against the enemy's rather audacious landings. The 3rd Battalion spearheaded the division's reinforcements, marching relentlessly through the day and night, arriving at Dongtang, over 30 kilometers southeast of Yingtian, and this was on the 23rd. All of them fully realizing that Yongtian had already fallen to the enemy. Lo Wenlang sought out the retreating 95th Divisional Commander, Lo Qi, to beg for a new mission. His resolve was unyielding. Liu Qi, anticipating his arrival, relayed Commander Guan Yizheng's ironclad instructions. The 19th Division's reinforcements would assume Dongtang's defenses. With the main force still en route, Liu Qi tasked Liu's battalion with relieving a segment held by a replacement regiment. He handed over a map, sketching a line with a pencil, a simple stroke that thrust Liu Wang and his men out onto the front lines. An operations staff was dispatched to guide them to the position and to oversee the handover. As the troops advanced, they encountered scattered soldiers fleeing like startled rabbits. Seizing a platoon leader revealed that they were indeed from the replacement regiment. Mere minutes from the divisional HQ, the enemy was already closing in, a predator's breath hot on their necks. Liu Wenlang and the deputy battalion commander, Wu Yatsai, split the battalion, launching a counterattack on Dongtang from dual routes. Fortune favored them. The Japanese held only an exhausted company, crumbling under a single ferocious charge. They swiftly deployed 2 companies to the positions, reserving one as a bulwark. By dusk, the full 55th Regiment arrived, accompanied by the rest of the 19th Division's reinforcements, allowing the battered 95th Division, ravaged at Yingtian, to withdraw for desperate reorganization. The regimental commander positioned Lo's 3rd Battalion on the regiment's vulnerable left wing. In the blink of an eye, it was the 27th, aligning with the 15th on the 8th lunar month. Amidst the relentless great battle, few noted the calendar, and the skies hung heavy with clouds. Liu Wenlang twisted on his straw bed, his thoughts a snarled knot of anxiety and memory. At 11 p.m., gunfire shattered the night. A barrage of machine gun bullets riddled the battalion HQ house, raining thatch and dust upon Lo like fallout from a storm. Catastrophe had struck. Lo surged towards the positions with his bugler, his battalion signal chief, and the reserve force, ascending the hilltop in quite a frenzy. Halfway up, he spotted the 8th Company's lieutenant platoon leader, Rong Feiyu, leading over 20 soldiers in retreat. He bellowed, "Why an unauthorized retreat?" While he was brandishing his pistol, he compelled Rong to rally and then turn back. The Japanese had launched a nocturnal assault. 8th Company Commander Yi Zutao lay slain by a fatal shot. Over a dozen comrades had been felled in the brutal close combat, the survivors scattered like leaves to the wind. The high ground now belonged to the Japanese. Upon learning of Dongtang's loss, the regimental commander personally led the regimental reserve, his face etched with urgency. Under flickering lantern light, poring over the map with Lo, Division Commander Tang Boyin telephoned. His voice was a whip crack of command. "Recapture it before dawn, or both would face the merciless hand of military justice." After seizing the high ground, the enemy hesitated to press further. Lo surmised the darkness concealed paths, and their numbers were not overwhelming. Foregoing the regimental reserve, he led the 7th Company's 4 squads and remnants of the routed 8th Company in a stealthy assault. Near the position, a ravine concealed over 20 of the 8th Company soldiers, rallied by Sergeant Squad Leader Tan Tianrong, who had lurked in wait for reinforcements, dreading exposure at dawn under the enemy's gaze. Spotting the battalion commander personally spearheading the counterattack, Tan Tianrong's face lit with some fierce joy. His men, armed with grenades, surged as a vanguard. Intimate with the terrain, even in blindness, they hurled explosives into bunkers, trenches, and works. The commander orchestrated the charge. The Japanese force of about 50 men crumbled, over half slain or maimed, the remnants fleeing northward to their village strongpoint. It was past 4 a.m. The moon pierced the clouds, bathing the earth in a silvery glow. With positions reclaimed, the night revealed its utmost secrets. Tonight was mid-autumn. Before the war, devastating news had arrived. His brother, Lo Yinyong, had been killed in Jiangxi. Lo had actually 3 brothers. The eldest shouldered half the family's burdens. Their bond was unbreakable. The brother had enlisted first in the 50th Army, climbing to battalion commander through sheer valor. He and his younger brother had followed suit, inspired by the call to arms. Wartime conscription demanded only 1 per family, but battling the devils was a duty for the nation and its people. His brother had risen to deputy regimental commander before his end. The 50th Army notified him first. Engulfed in battle, there had been no time to console his grieving parents or tend to the funeral. It weighed heavy on his heart. His sister-in-law, diligent and unassuming, cared for a young boy and carried another child. The long, arduous days ahead loomed like an endless shadow. The night dew brought a biting chill, the moon an icy sentinel. Lil shivered uncontrollably, his tears mingled with frost. The sky hung heavy with overcast gloom, yet the moon lurked beyond the clouds, casting a faint, ethereal light that warded off the utter darkness. Along the road, a unit's elongated black shadow snaked southward in hurried silence, a serpent of wary resolve pressing through the night. Chen Yuzhi reined in his horse, pausing to gaze back. The queue stretched onward, silent and impeccably orderly, battling the exhaustion of a force scared by days of ferocious combat, their spirits unbroken amidst the shadows. After the Japanese seized the 195th Division's defined outpost at the Bijua Mountain, they surged across the Xinjiang River in a merciless onslaught. The river, shallow enough to wade knee-deep, offered no true impediment. The real barrier was forged from the defenders' scorching blood, a crimson testament to their unyielding stand. The 195th Division clashed in a maelstrom of cruelty. Positions were heaped with corpses time and time again, and the Xinjiang's waters churned blood red in the relentless carnage. From the night of the 23rd to the dawn of the 25th, respite was a forgotten dream. Okumura Yasuji, in a gesture of grim respect, inscribed Qin's name in an elegant calligraphy, and he hung it within his command tent, a haunting trophy of his foe's tenacity. Following their triumphant landing at Yingtian, the Japanese entangled the 9th War Zone's left-wing defenders in a protracted snare, their advances grinding slowly like a predator toying with its prey, menacing the flanks of the frontal troops with an insidious intent. On the evening of the 27th, Shuer issued the fateful order for the 15th Army Group to withdraw to the precarious ground between the Meidao River and Changshan City, ushering this blood-soaked force into an all-night march towards the next defensible crucible. Late into the night, a brief halt was called. Soldiers slumped to the ground, adjusting leg wraps and gear with mechanical precision. Logistical teams darted through the ranks, distributing rations like lifelines. Cooks, having forged ahead, arrived with steaming pots of rice soup, infusing the air with a rare warmth. Though no clamor broke the hush, a quiet camaraderie enveloped in the queue. The division staff claimed a flat expanse beside a farmhouse yard for the respite. Qin settled onto a stone roller used for grinding grain, nibbling at his meager ration and sipping the hot soup that steamed in the cool air. Suddenly moonlight pierced the clouds, cascading down in streams. The familiar contours of the farmhouse stirred a flood of warmth in his heart, evoking some memories of home. Chongqing, Huangshan Villa, every window was shrouded in double layers of thick curtains, sealing out any sliver of light, as if the very walls conspired to guard secrets from the encroaching night. Yet beyond those fortified walls, another realm pulsed with life, a vibrant contrast to the shadowed vigilance outside. The front hall, living room, and dining room blazed with a brilliant light. Vibrant flowers dominated in the full, defined bloom, infusing the air with some fragrance. Meanwhile, a phonogram murmured a cheerful Guangdong melody. Kai-shek, clad in a flowing black silk gown, strode ahead with some poised grace, escorting his guests into the dining room alongside the elegantly attired Song Meiling, their conversation laced with some laughter and warmth. At the table, Song Meiling's smile was a beacon of diplomacy, as she artfully arranged the seating to suit hierarchies and alliances, while servers in crisp white uniforms moved with some precision. This was Chiang Kai-shek's intimate mid-autumn family banquet. Beyond a handful of pivotal military and political figures, the gathering brimmed with his relatives. Guests and kin alike noted Chiang Kai-shek's buoyant spirits that night. His smiles were wide and genuine. The discourse was light and expansive. In September of 1939, China's war of resistance against Japan had entered its grueling third year. After the initial cataclysm of turmoil and disarray, the government and military had clawed their way to at least some form of stability, adapting to this unprecedented historical crucible, with operations finally aligning into somewhat a semblance of order. According to figures proclaimed by the Ministry of Military Affairs, Hunying Qin, to the Chinese and foreign reporters, on the 13th of this month, Japanese invaders had seized 521 counties across 12 provinces, a vast swath of conquest. Yet the Japanese imperialists had exacted this toll at a staggering cost. Just prior on August 30th, the Hironuma cabinet, installed a mere 8 months earlier, had collapsed in mass resignation. Hironuma, Kichiro's predecessor, Konoe Fumimaro, had similarly bowed out amidst governmental failures, chiefly the ambitions in the Second Sino-Japanese War that he had boldly promised to Parliament exacerbated domestic, political, and economic woes. Days ago, when Wang Pengsheng briefed Chiang Kai-shek on Japan's turbulent politics, he quipped, "Hanoi said 3 months to destroy China. 3 months didn't work. Nor 3 years. Who knows about 30 or even 300? Hironuma had no solutions, down to 8 months. Does Abe have any good ideas? How long can he be prime minister?" Indeed, Abe Nobuyuki, Hironuma's successor, would endure a mere 4.5 months before resigning. Tonight's feast showcased Chiang Kai-shek's favored cuisines, delicate Jiangsu Zhejiang dishes mingled with some robust Sichuan flavors. Chiang abstained from alcohol, raising his cup in mere symbolic toast to his guests. During the meal, as if by unspoken accord, no one broached the raging domestic battles or the volatile international landscape. Conversations meandered through trivialities, skirting anything heavy or discordant. On September the 3rd, Britain and France had declared war on Germany, shattering the global order. It was quite a seismic shift. 4 newspapers already bandied the term Second World War, a phrase that evoked freshness, exhilaration, and sheer terror. China's diplomacy surged with newfound vigor. In April, Ambassador to the United States Wang Jianqing had negotiated a $20 million loan with American banks on China's behalf. In May, Stalin responded to Chiang's overtures, agreeing to exchange arms for Chinese tea, wool, raw hides, and other things. A month later, the first consignment of light and heavy weapons, including artillery and heavy machine guns, arrived via the clandestine routes through Xinjiang and Mongolia, bolstering the Central Army's front lines. In August, He Shi, Wellington Ko, and Qian Tai represented the nationalist government at the 19th League of Nations Assembly, laying bare the Japanese atrocities ongoing in China before the world and rallying global forces for peace to support China's defiant stand. Soon after, British and American civic groups ignited China Week campaigns, pressing their governments to aid the beleaguered nation. Waves of foreign volunteers streamed in from distant shores, doctors, journalists, ordnance engineers, even retired soldiers clamoring to join the fray at the front lines. If we could pull America into this war. Through Song Meiling's subtle, pervasive influence, Chiang allowed himself to daydream of such a ridiculous, dynamic, young powerhouse across the vast ocean. Thus, on this mid-autumn night, his talk turned to America, to his correspondence with President Roosevelt regarding the Tung oil loan. That saga had unfolded the previous October. TV Sung had jetted over to America, securing a loan with China's Tung oil, a commodity scarce in the U.S., as collateral. China had boldly requested $400 million. America countered with $25 million, a classic tale of ask high, settle low. Yet the funds were secured. One success paved the way for many. Sung Meiling had once confided to Chiang Kai-shek, "In mobilizing United States aid for China's resistance, I'll make a difference." When Chiang responded with a smile, "Thank you, madame," he could scarcely foresee how his beautiful wife's extraordinary prowess in fulfilling this solemn vow would astonish him, etching eternal glory for Chinese women worldwide and elevating Sung Meiling to the zenith of her life's achievements. Now, the most direct echo of the First Battle of Changsha's thunderous saga resides in the 9th War Zone's meticulous report on the northern Hunan and southern Hubei operations, submitted to the Chongqing Military Committee and Chiang Kai-shek himself, a fading relic now entombed amidst the vast ocean of nationalist government, military, and political archives in Nanjing's Second Historical Archives of China. This document, a painstaking compilation of combat dispatches from divisions, armies, and army groups, stands as a testament to the valor and sacrifices that were made. Tragically, times around this march and human folly have ravaged this priceless artifact. But here is some of it. October the 24th, year 28. Urgent. To Chongqing, Chairman Chang. Secret. Submitted by Commander Shuer. On orders. The Xinjiang River spanning from Liuzhou to Leshu Mountain, defending a front of over 110 li. Enemy, 13th and 33rd Divisions, parts of the Hata Detachment, naval units and artillery, cavalry, engineers totaling. Began attacking us, first with artillery, fortifications, completely destroyed. Then infantry charged. relying on our officers and men, all resolved to coexist with the homeland, and launched balloons to direct artillery. Our army braved the cannons, repelled them, corpses filling the river, turning the water red. Division casualties also reached over 1,000, failed to inflict greater strikes and annihilate deeper inner guilt, besides vigorously training troops awaiting orders to kill the enemy. Attack casualties heavy, then concentrated large forces, artillery fire so dense like continuous firecrackers for hours, released poison gas. Wang Street garrison all heroically sacrificed, then breached Zhao Gongwu, kowtows, October the 15th. Zhao Gongwu commanded the 2nd Division under Jiang Yaoming's 52nd Army. This unit first held the line along the Xinjiang River, then fell back northeast of Fangjiang Bridge to staunch the enemy tide once more. After October the 6th, it hammered southward, marching Japanese from the west in the Yangling Street to Dajing Street's regions. Through these crucibles, the division bled over half of its strength. As the full moon of the 15th of the 8th month dissolved into the golden red blaze of sunrise, Qin Yeji's 195th Division had already plunged into the rugged mountains and dense forests encircling Fulinpu. Per directives from the 15th Army Group Commander, Guan Lijiang, the 195th was to forge a new defensive bastion centered on Fulinpu, about 40 to 70 kilometers from Changsha. Their mandate, to stall the Japanese southwards, granting precious time for Allied forces to muster and fortify around the city. Despite the grueling all-night march, morale soared undimmed. The advanced chief of staff doled out positions to each regiment, and the troops dove into fortification labors with some zeal. The 195th Division's unyielding stand along the Xinjiang River had already etched preliminary glory upon this unit in its baptism under fire. Fame in one battle echoed as a battle cry throughout the division, where collective honor intertwined with personal valor. On September the 23rd, amidst the Japanese forcing the Xinjiang River, Guan Lijiang's voice crackled over the phone to Qin Yeji. "Facing you is the 6th Division. The 6th Division, a name that ignited fury in Chinese troops and civilians alike, for they were some of those that perpetrated the Nanjing Massacre. This sent some agitation rippling through the ranks. Some letters would go out to their loved ones stating, "Tonight we fight to the death. See you in the next life. Tell my mother I died fighting the Nanjing Massacre enemies." Some company commanders commanded their mess sergeants to expend all funds on hearty feasts. All Japanese were foes, but the 6th Division embodied a very large blood debt, an unforgivable vendetta. The Chinese nation does not lightly forget its tormentors. In the Xinjiang River maelstrom, the 195th Division battled with heroic ferocity. Some soldiers, in their final breaths, murmured, "Die then, it's worth it." Others lamented slaying too few of the Japanese devils, gritting teeth, eyes refusing to close, in a form of eternal regret. Now under Inaba Shiro's command, the 6th Division splintered southward after breaching the Xinjiang River. Roughly 1,000 hounded the 195th to Fulinpu. On the morning of September the 29th, the Japanese blundered into the 195th's meticulously laid ambush. Qin Yeji, pulse racing with excitement and tension, fumbled the binoculars from his guard's hand. His command sliced through the air. "Begin." And as the war history chronicles it, the 6th Division advanced south from the Melo River along the Xinxi-Lichao Road and the Xinshu-Fulinpu routes. The over 1,000 Japanese reached Fulinpu. They were ambushed by the Nationalist 195th Division, suffering heavy losses. As Japanese artillery and aircraft unleashed hell upon the 195th's position, Jin orchestrated a swift southward withdrawal to the outskirts of Shangshan City. Again, without any pause, they erected fortifications and set up more deadly traps. On the morning of September the 30th, the pursuers from Fulinpu closed in on Changshan, their numbers swollen to over 1,500. Qin Yeji clenched his jaw, his demeanor icy calm, allowing the Japanese to creep into the kill zone before he barked orders. "Hit them hard." Combat raged from dawn to dusk, obliterating over 700 of the enemy. Chin ascended a hill, surveying through his binoculars, then erupted, "Bad. The enemy is retreating." Upon receiving Chin's telegram, Guan Yujiang scrutinized the map, momentarily stunned. Then he replied, "Enemy shows no retreat signs yet. Proceed per original plan. Your unit to block at Shangshan City." Combat maps bristled with markings, staff officers darting amidst ringing phones and clattering telegrams. The colossal red arrow in northern Hunan had fractured into tributaries, surging over 100 kilometers southwards from the outset. One tendril pierced to Yang'an City, a mere 30 kilometers from Changsha. Vast swaths of northern Hunan lay conquered, yet Okemura sensed the tide was turning. It was actually time to retreat. The Chinese employed their time-honored gradual resistance, battling while retreating with cunning grace. Some units fell back directly, others amassed on flanks. In Okemura's shrewd mind loomed an equally shrewd Shuer. He envisioned his adversary methodically weaving a snare. Post-Yingtan landing, the 15th Army Group's timely evasion had unraveled his Xiangan operation plan, like fragile thread. If encircling and annihilating the Chinese main force proved unattainable, what purpose in pressing onwards? Telegrams from the 3rd Division's Fujita Sasumu, 6th Inabashiro, and 13th Tanaka Seiichi's piled up on his desk, pleading to assault Changsha, for headlines and imperial accolades, perhaps, not blind to their exposed supply lines vulnerable to enemy thrusts. Ground logistics teetered on collapse. Their air force resorted to airdrops for isolated regiments. Venturing further south would stretch lines to the breaking point. A severed artery spelled doom for the vanguard. When would these commanders mature into true stewards of the Imperial Japanese Army? Okemura fretted and pitied them in equal measure. At 4 p.m. on September the 30th, Okemura decreed a halt to advances at Changshan and Yong'an. He commenced orchestrating the retreat. Changsha, Yalu Mountain, 9th War Zone Command, Forward HQ, October the 1st. Shuer stood before the map. Guan's latest telegram clutched in his hand. Chin's second missive insisted on Japanese withdrawal, corroborated by the 15th Army Group's scouts from Yingtian. This morning, on October the 1st, Japanese transports unloaded artillery stowed the previous night, hauling it back to Yueyang. Intercepted wires revealed a regiment aborting its southward push, stalling idly. Guan assessed this and commanded counteroffensives. Intercept if feasible, pursue relentlessly, deny the Japanese escape. He relayed retreat indicators to Shuer. Shuer paced about his chamber, head bowed in contemplation. Chief of Staff Wu Yuzhi, Staff Director Zhao Juli, and their cadre tracked his every step with expectant eyes, awaiting the verdict. Shuer's thoughts whirled through military stratagems and beyond. Pre-war, Shuer had segmented the war zone's forces into tripartite blocks. Northern Hunan under Guan Yujiang's 15th, Yangtzen's 27th, and Shang Zhen's 20th Army Group as Cluster A. Northern Jiangxi, Nanchang with Yunnan Army Luhan's 1st Army Group and the 74th Army were Cluster B. The Wuning, Shishui, Hunan Hubei Jiangxi border, guarded by the Suchinese Army, Wang Yizhu's 30th Army Corps, Fan Songpu's Border Advance Army, and the 8th Army, augmented by 3 Army's 7th Divisions in General Reserve. Before the storm broke, Shuer pored over the maps, tracing every mountain, river, road, and bridge, envisioning burial grounds for the invaders. Now beneath Changsha, 200,000 troops formed a tightening net. The decisive battle in Changsha's suburbs blueprint had been wired to Chongqing. Kai-shek and the nation yearned for a resounding triumph as the resistance pivoted into a new epoch. A masterful drama honed over half a month's toil, nearing its crescendo. Yet that cunning fox appeared to sniff the trap's metallic tang, freezing in place. "Commander, phone from Minister Chen. Brother Baoling, good news." Chen Cheng's voice brimmed with levity. "Your formal appointment published." "What?" "9th War Zone Commander. First to congratulate, document coming tomorrow." Shedding the acting prefix was inevitable. Kai-shek had intimated as much long ago, but for a man and a general, true worth lay not in titles, but in forging Incredible feats. Unmoved by the promotion, Shuer exhaled a profound sigh. Though the 15th intelligence couldn't confirm a wholesale retreat, preparations for dual contingencies were imperative. Victories came hard. A splendid battle, harder still. He summoned Wu Yuzhi and Zhao Zhuli to devise countermeasures for the enemy's potential flight. October the 2nd, the Sichuanese Army, Yang San's 27th Army Group, Yang Gantai's 134th Division, Special Service Company, under Company Commander Wan Mingyu, slogged through some profound mountains and forests on the northern Mufu Mountains flanks. The 134th's covert mandate was to infiltrate enemy rear via treacherous terrain, sabotage supply arteries in the Chongyang, Xianying sector, deliver a dagger to the Japanese spine when opportunity strikes. Past 3 p.m., the mountain stream was materializing. Wanted to create a respite. Over 100 soldiers, drained from half a day's ascent, collapsed like puppets with severed strings. Most propped their torsos with rifles in one hand, fanning hats to ward off the relentless forest mosquitoes with the other. Regaining breath, they devoured rations washed down with stream water. Some unfurled towels and ventured downstream, letting the cool flow rinse away layers of sweat upon them. Then a muted engine drone encroached from the heavens. One peered through the foliage. A low-flying plane vectored southward, its wings emblazed with the rising sun. A transport. One recognized the temporary Japanese airfield near Xianying. With lines overextended, airdrops sustained isolated units. Juan was prying open a can with his bayonet, the tip etching across on the lid before leveraging along the edge. Paired with a rice ball, it promised quite a good meal. His orderly preferred a cup of fresh stream water. Second platoon leader, Hu Yaozong, perched nearby on a rock, smirking, poised to pilfer from the open tin. Juan warded off his Sichuanese Pixian compatriot. The plane droned overhead of them. Both glanced skyward. The platoon quipped, "Open quick, damn, I'll repay 2 cans later." The can hailed from a prior supply raid. In response, he stated, "You want me to shoot the plane?" The commander said, "Bastard, you shooting it or not?" The platoon leader snatched a light machine gun from a tree fork. He jammed the butt against his belly. With one hand on the grip, he aimed crudely. "Come down, you turtle son." The other hand squeezed the trigger. Juan assumed jest, resuming his task. Then, da-da-da-da-da. Juan jolted, the half-open can tumbling to his feet, spilling Japanese fish onto Chinese soil. The recoil floored the platoon leader. He curled the gun like a branding iron, face ashen, inspecting the trigger. He snarled, "Whose damn fault? Why was there no safety on this thing?" The gunner dashed over, tall and even-tempered. "The safety was on. How'd it fire without pulling?" Juan's initial panic. "Damn, our position is exposed." The company spearheaded the division's reinforced regiment to raise a recent Japanese depot, guarded by just a company. But exposure doomed the regiment deep in hostile territory. The assault had been plotted for days. Pre-departure, Yang Gantai had toasted them. One had sworn a blood oath. No return to Sichuan without success. He had jested then. No Sichuan return means wanting Hunanese girls as concubines. Banter was fine in peace, but in the war's grip this was no trifling errand. Juan unleashed a torrent of curses, rising to survey the region. The main force lagged 15 kilometers behind. Advance or abort the post-blunder was the question in his head. Enemy rear was like a labyrinth. This isolated band teetered on a razor's edge. As if to compel a choice, the radio operator approached. Juan itched to lash out. But in his fear and indecision, a miracle unfolded. The transport engines hacked like a consumption invalid, and then a witness spied that the plane was banking left, plummeting. Its nose was going towards a colossal rock about 3 to 4 kilometers distant. It rebounded twice on the stone, nose and left wing crumpled. The fuselage, fragile as a parchment paper, tumbled gently, skewing onto the slope amid splintering trees. Juan gaped. Then he bellowed, "Assemble!" The men snapped from reverie, charging downhill in a frenzied cascade. 1 hour later, the 134th Deputy Commander, reinforced regimental commander, Liu, decoded Juan's vanguard transmission via radio. Another hour passed before Liu received Yang Gaitai's directive. Return with documents immediately, 1 day hence, October the 3rd. This was Okimura Yasuji's original retreat order from October the 2nd, addressed to the Northern Hunan 6th 33rd Division's Nara-Nomura detachments plus its Chinese translation, landed straight on Shuyue's desk. 15 days later, at the Changsha victory celebration, unit accolades were proclaimed for shooting down an enemy plane, obtaining vital enemy documents. Honors went to the 134th Commander Yang Gangtai and the Deputy Liu. Each received 1,000 yuan and 1 third-class Baoding medal. Okimura's October the 2nd order, in its original form, read like this. Chinese forces retreated to Meilo and Xushui River's banks assembling. To avoid disadvantage, this army should quickly withdraw to original positions, restore combat strength. As pertaining to Shuyue's October the 3rd order, Northern Hunan frontal units with current posture immediately pursue facing enemy fiercely, must capture in Chongyang, Yueyang South area. Pursuit units may detach part to monitor and sweep enemy collection troops. Main force execute overtaking pursuit. Already deep behind enemy advance units vigorously destroy enemy transport lines, cut escape routes. From October the 3rd, Chinese forces unleashed ferocious counteroffensives against the Japanese on 3 fronts, Northern Hunan, Southern Hubei, and the Hunan-Hubei-Jiangxi border. The invaders receded like a vanishing tide, never to reclaim their ground. The 25th and 195th Divisions hounded the 6th Division and Nara Detachment from Fulimpu back to the Meilo River, then to the Xinjiang River. On October the 8th, the Japanese fled across the Xinjiang. The 195th's 566th Brigade surged in pursuit, launching a nocturnal raid on Xitang, Jiangshan. Gains were modest, but the enemy, entrenched in their den, resisted with feral tenacity. Qin commanded the brigade's withdrawal southward. Northern Hunan operations concluded. In southern Hubei, the 79th Army chased remnants of the 33rd Division from Sanyang Bridge to Pingjiang, across Nanjiang Bridge, hounded them back to their Tongcheng lair. On the Hunan-Hubei-Jiangxi border, the 30th Army Group Commander, Wang Liji, orchestrated a pincer against the Japanese at Xushui. The foes retreated to Sangdu, mounting a stubborn defense. Chinese assaults faltered for 3 days. On the 4th night's blitz, victory crowned their efforts, expelling the invaders to their original Wuning stronghold. With both armies reclaiming pre-war lines, the First Battle of Changsha drew to a resounding close. Over the days, Shuyue received a deluge of congratulatory telegrams and letters from the nationalist government, military committees, National Assembly, myriads of civic groups, party officials, and just social luminaries. And as hoped, amongst them was Chiang Kai-shek, brimming with joy. For Shuyue, this one sufficed. Chiang Kai-shek's telegram read like such to Shuyue. In this northern Hunan campaign, over half the enemy was annihilated. This triumph news has invigorated the nation, all due to the effective command and soldiers' valor. I commend without reservation. Thoroughly investigate and report all the personnel from this battle. Also report the dead and the wounded for awards and relief. With this initial victory foundation laid, our officers and men's responsibilities grow heavier. Urge your subordinates to extra vigilance, redoubled efforts, avoid arrogance or complacency, to amass great achievements, my deepest hopes. As if countering Chongqing's high-powered broadcasts, Japanese radios in Wuhan, Nanjing, Beiping, and Manchukuo blared at full volume this. In this Xianggan operation, valiant imperial forces penetrated over 100 kilometers into northern Hunan, sweeping anti-peace elements, routing Chinese central main forces, inflicting over 40,000 enemy casualties. A pivotal triumph advancing the Holy War. Having achieved objectives, imperial troops have victoriously withdrawn. In the aftermath of the First Battle of Changsha, the Japanese High Command spun a tale of calculated restraint, insisting their assault was merely a spoiling raid, a calculated jab, never intended to seize nor hold the city indefinitely. With brazen confidence, they downplayed their toll, claiming a mere 850 souls were lost to death and about 2,700 were wounded in the fray. while boastfully asserting that they had slain 44,000 Chinese defendants and taken 4,000 captives, painting a picture of overwhelming triumph amidst the smoke and the ruin. Yet foreign military observers peering through the fog of propaganda, with detached scrutiny, painted a starkly different canvas. They gauged Chinese losses as far more tempered, around 20,000 killed and wounded, a heavy but bearable scar on the nation's resolve, while estimating Japanese casualties soared to around 30,000, a grievous hemorrhage that belied the invaders' claims of minimal sacrifice. Military historian Michael Clodfelter sifted through the annals of the conflict, ventured on even grimmer tallies. A staggering 50,000 Japanese casualties, if it's to be believed, endured in the relentless clash, a testament to the ferocity of Chinese resistance and the high price of imperial ambition. The battle's locale, neither side claimed clear victory, but globally, for the resistance, it favored China. I'd like to take this time to remind all of you that this podcast is only made possible through the efforts of Kings and Generals over at YouTube. Please go subscribe to Kings and Generals over at YouTube and continue to produce this content by checking out www.patreon.com/kingsandgenerals. Hey, don't forget about our sister podcasts over at the Pacific War and Eastern Front week-by-week podcast, both written and narrated by me. And if after all that, if you're still hungry for some more history, why don't you check out my personal channel, the Pacific War channel found over at YouTube, or my podcast series, Echoes of War, found on major podcast platforms. If you're looking to support me further, please consider checking out my YouTube membership or my Patreon account at www.patreon.com/thepacificwarchannel. By joining either of these, you get access to the exclusive podcast series, get early access to all the content I make, and voting rights for the subjects I will tackle next. The First Battle of Changsha unfolded in September of 1939 during China's War of Resistance against Japan. Japanese forces under Okamura Yasuji advanced into Hunan and Jiangxi, crossing rivers and capturing key positions like Yingtian amidst fierce Chinese defenses led by General Shuer.